Napoleon not only in the history of France but also considered a great person in the history of Europe. There is hardly any other person in history who has received so much admiration and hatred from his contemporaries. He was an ordinary military officer during the progress of the French Revolution. He was greatly affected by the events of the revolution and took the side of the revolutionaries enthusiastically. Napoleon's rise to power resulted from revolutions taking violent forms and European wars against France. So he is often called "Child of Revolution" by Safibha Sansa. In the campaigns of Hitler, 1796, and Egypt, 1798 AD, Napoleon eventually increased his prestige in France. In the incompetent and unpleasant government of France. He also successfully led the French forces that ended the 1799 Directory and gained political power. He fought successful wars against the major European countries for several years, from the First Consul of France, 1799 to 1804, to the British, 1804 to 1814. As a result of these wars, he expanded the French Empire and increased his power. Although the end of 1814 to 15 AD he was defeated, he is considered to be the greatest conqueror and general of modern times. Napoleon is famous in the history of France not only for his victories but also for many reforms. Even though his victories were highly commendable, however these proved temporary. While he was carried through, the impact of the internal reforms can still be seen. Birth and parents. Napoleon was born on August 15, 1769 in the city of Ajaccio on the island of Corsica in the Mediterranean Sea. His father Charles Bonaparte belonged to a small aristocracy. His mother, Letizia Ramolino, was a Corsican woman of extraordinary beauty and high character. Napoleon was the second of his parents' 8 children, 5 boys and 3 girls. Childhood and education. Since childhood, Napoleon was hardworking, adventurous. He was a virtuous person and more worthy than his other brothers and sisters. He was very fond of listening stories of brave soldiers. At the age of 5, he used to form an army of small children in the streets of Ajaccio and conduct mock battles. Seeing the child's passion, the parents decided to give Napoleon a military education. In May 1779, after getting primary education in the school, he greatly impressed his teachers. One of his teachers once wrote of him, "This young man is made of steel and has a volcano burning inside him." As a commissioned officer in the army, Napoleon joined the French army, artillery, as a sub-lieutenant at the age of 16 after completing his military education. His salary was very low due to which he was not satisfied. He slept very little and ate only once a day. He used to spend most of his time in reading and writing. He read revolutionary literature and was deeply influenced by the works of Rousseau. He hated the French and dreamed of liberating Corsica. 1792 AD Napoleon joined the Jacobin faction in Paris. The next year, 1793 AD, he took a prominent part in the defense of the port of Toulon, Tbun, against the English attack. In this battle, Napoleon's horse was killed and he himself was wounded, but he was successful against the English army. After the fall of Robespierre, July 1794, Napoleon was imprisoned, but escaped execution for his bravery at Toulon. The 5th of October 1795, the bravery and fearlessness with which Napoleon protected the National Convention from the monarchists during the barrage of bullets increased the prestige of Napoleon in all of France. Consequently, he was appointed as the commander of the internal forces of the country on the recommendation of Director Barras. Marriage. October 1795, Director Barras made Napoleon meet a beautiful widow Josephine. Josephine, whose real name was Mary Rose, Viscount Borna, who was born in 1791. He had been the president of the National Assembly and had a wife. Her husband was killed during the Reign of Terror. The 9th of March 1796, both of them got married with a simple ceremony. Josephine was 6 years older than Napoleon at the time and the mother of 2 children, boy Eugene who was 25 and girl Hortense who was 13. Italian and Egyptian campaigns. Only after 2 days of marriage, leaving his new bride in Paris, he left for the Italian campaign. As a result of this campaign, Napoleon emerged as a determined, hardworking and visionary politician and a great military hero. Napoleon received a warm welcome on his successful return to France from Italy. May 1798 in the Directory government sent Napoleon to conquer Egypt. Napoleon soon took control of Egypt. But in the Battle of the Nile, August 1, 1798 AD, the English navy under Napoleon defeated the French badly. After failing to achieve his objective in Egypt, Napoleon died on October 16, 1799. Brought back to France. Overthrow of the Directory and establishment of the consulate. In Bhavgarh 1799, the government of the Directory in Big Evenum was discredited. There was unrest and anarchy everywhere in the country. Another Europe coalition against France had been formed. France had risen from the Directory. The news of his return soon spread throughout the country. Crowds of people gathered on the streets to see him. Every countryman was eagerly waiting for him and everyone had new hopes from him. Napoleon, Abbé Sieyès and his brother Lucien planned to end the Directory. By resorting to military force, he successfully implemented his plan and abolished the Directory on 10 November 1799. This was the most important event in Napoleon's life and this started a new era in France. Now a new government of consulate was established in France. It vested all executive power in 3 consuls, Napoleon, Sieyès and Decaux. Napoleon's appointment as first consul was approved by the French people with an overwhelming majority of 30 million votes. The Constitution of the year 8, 1799. The Imami accepted the coup d'état of Brumaire without any opposition as they were fed up with the prolonged anarchy and incompetent rule of the Directory. Now they only hoped that the future of the country would be safe in the hands of Napoleon and he would be able to fulfill the wishes of the countrymen. The provisional government or consulate formed after the coup d'état soon got busy drafting a new constitution for the country. The 15th of December 1799 a new constitution was drawn up by Napoleon and Dussault in 1789. It was the 4th constitution of France after the French Revolution. According to this constitution, the government executive power was given in the hands of 3 consuls. These consuls were elected for 10 years and had the right to be re-elected. Napoleon Bonaparte was appointed as the first consul in whose hands all the actual power was given. According to Hazen, he had more executive powers than those given to Louis XVI by the Constitution. He was to appoint all the ministers and officials of the country. His other 2 companions, consuls, could only advise him and their main task was to sign and approve the first consul's yes. Napoleon now took up residence in the Tuileries Palace and began holding regular court. According to the Statement of Fife in 1799 AD of France established under the Constitution of the new government was humiliating to France and destroyed everything it had gained from the revolution. The Republic had come to an end and the era of the autocracy had begun. According to the Constitution, the legislative power was vested in 4 different assemblies: Council of State, Tribunate, Senate legislative body. The Raj Parishad had 30 members who were nominated by the first consul. Their job was only to present the bill. Napoleon was the president of this assembly. The Nya Sabha had 100 members who could debate legislative proposals. The Senate had 60 members who were elected for life through indirect election. They had to pass or reject the legislative proposals by giving a final decision. The Legislative Assembly had 300 members who voted for or against motions without debate. The members of this council were elected through the citizens. A major feature of this constitution was the universal adult franchise provision. Every citizen over the age of 21 was given the right to vote.